Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Happy Friday to y'all. Let me fix a couple things here in my view. Welcome. Haven't done a TLD cast in a while. It's been a little crazy on this end, but I hope all of you are doing well. Good morning, Nicole. Thanks. Let me just check a couple things here. I see Bobby, Danielle, Bridget, Lene, Michelle. Thanks so much for jumping in. So, let's see. I had to do this one because there's a bunch of stuff that's coming up with TLDC that I have to make decisions on. And as many of you probably are aware, it's sort of like me in my little shack of a office slash, mini work music studio. And I'm just in here toiling away at my day job and also supporting TLDC. But some things have come up with TLDC where I have to just make some changes. And at first I'm like, oh man, this is really tough trying to figure a lot of this stuff out. But at the same time, it kind of feels good to have to innovate and make some changes because that's just the way the world works nowadays. So yeah, I am glad that all of you that have registered and are here this morning are. I'm hoping to get some feedback from you to see like some of these things that are going on in my head and how to try to make TLDC better and help this community thrive. Because although TLDC as a conference started back in 2016, which is crazy to think about, and actually now that I sort of just realized that last night I had dreams about Brent Schlenker, who was like one of the co-founders of TLDC, and that he was actually lifting me up somewhere. So that's kind of funny that I would be having this conversation right now, just reflecting on him. But so we've been doing this for 8 years, and I think, let's see, we started moving everything just strictly virtual as soon as the pandemic hit. So that was around 2020, I think, that we really started. I started focusing on events and trying to do things monthly. But now I have to kind of shift gears a little bit. Things have changed. So yes, Bobby, that's our norm change. That's absolutely the truth. All right. So I do have, some slides. Let me show you those. I always get confused here. It's everything is on in the in this interface is Crowdcast is like opposite of AirMeet. So I'm always just rattled whenever I have to get into it. All right, so I got some slides here. Let me go ahead and full screen these guys. All right, so there have been a lot of things I've been thinking about with TLDC, and I have been kind of in the behind the scenes sort of struggling a little bit with the newsletter and trying to figure out what the direction of the community should be. It's hard because after the pandemic, especially, a lot of TLDC sort of shifted to accommodate like a lot of new instructional designers that were coming in and sort of the requests that I was getting to help with that. And so I feel like the audience has changed in the last few years, but the technology is changing. And for me personally, I don't work daily as an instructional designer. I work at a learning platform and I'm constantly surrounded by folks that are focused on supporting that platform and building that platform. I absolutely love it. But I'm also a little bit sort of confused and not quite sure where everybody is at with instructional design and L&D nowadays. It seemed like it was so much easier, like just even 10 years ago, to pinpoint like this is what people need. But now I don't know if it's because AI has been confusing me or anything like that, but I'm really sort of struggling. So I'm hoping that maybe the community can kind of help give some direction with that. So let me go ahead and thanks, Bridget. I don't really have, I mean, it's crazy to say this, but I feel like I don't have a lot of folks that I can turn to talk about this stuff. but then I'm like, duh, what am I doing? I just have a TLD cast and ask. So this is kind of what that is. Um, so some things that I need some ideas for, future virtual conferences. Also, I have to talk about some changes that are happening with AirMeet, and I'll get to that in a second. That one's a pretty significant one. Also, Slack over the last year have really kind of they're redefining themselves and saying no, it's not a community platform. And so if you're somebody that is regularly in Slack, you can see that a lot of the older messages are blurred out. They're just taking away some features that I used to really appreciate before, but they don't have those anymore because they're moving away from trying to define themselves, or from being a community type of platform. It's still useful and we still use it. We can message each other. I know that I'm regularly on there with private messages, and then also just posting things in channels, and that's really useful. But if we're kind of innovating and evolving, is Slack really the answer? And then, yeah, like the current state of L&D, what is going on there? And I'm just trying to figure out some innovative ways to help continue to support everyone's professional development. And as much as, I am, constantly in my learning platform at work, and I see things that are happening there. But I'm still, if anybody has anything that they've seen that is really, really interesting, I would love to hear about it. Let me see. Jessica said, as someone who hasn't been able to attend much of the virtual stuff, hoping this is changing. The newsletters you mentioned have been super helpful, and on the light of my inbox each week, I love the inclusion of adjacent topics. Thanks, Jessica. I really appreciate that. I want to mention too about the newsletters, and it used to be before like I was subscribed to so many L&D newsletters, and I would try to find, I don't know if you guys are subscribed to Mike Taylor's stuff, to Connie Malamed, the e-learning coach, just different people that I would subscribe to and try to find interesting stuff for the newsletter. But it was really hard. Ultimately, there just isn't a ton of stuff about L&D that is out there that you can post on a weekly newsletter. And so I started just posting bookmarks that I made from other things that I really find interesting, that are like Jessica's saying, is adjacent. Yes, Nicole, Friday Finds. Mike Taylor he's been doing it for years, and I definitely recommend subscribing to his newsletter if you can. Okay, so let's talk about some ideas for virtual conference topics. I created a Slack channel called Event or Topic Ideas, that if any of you are in Slack, the TLD, how do we get there? TLDchat.us. If you're not already in our Slack group, you can get there through that domain, TLDchat.us. And so join Slack if you haven't already. But I did make a new channel where I'm hoping that if you're sitting around and you're like, I wish I could learn more about this, go into that channel and post it in there. And I just went, really, most people, if they ask me and say, hey, I'd like to learn more about this, I will look into it and say, can we put an event together about this? Can we do a session about this? I'll try to, to meet those needs. So if you can, jump into that channel if you have any event or topic ideas. I love sort of compiling those and just having those to go to, because I have, for the most part, it's, I'm kind of clueless about a lot of this stuff. So yeah, some potential themes. Do we get back into, sort of apps and tech and hybrid learning? And I love case studies, and I really want to work on bringing some of that back in. And then the other thing that I'm kind of, it's a little tough for me because I really feel like I'm an introvert. And also, I try to stay focused on the things that I do. And so I'm really sensitive to the amount of noise that I personally make for other people. So when it comes to marketing TLDC, I'm terrible because I'm afraid that I'm going to disrupt people's attention by like throwing unnecessary stuff out there. I'm just really sensitive about stuff like that. But also let me know if you want more community activity. Um, that's yeah, I just need to hear it. I've kind of the newsletter, I've been kind of hit and miss with weekly over the last few months, and part of it is just like it's just content generation, and I hate creating content for the sake of creating content. So I only try to put things out when I have stuff of value. But if it feels like you need more community activity, please tell me, and I just like to know. And then after the next conference, just so you know, after the workplace learning, the evolution of workplace learning conference, which starts next week. If you're not registered for that, please do. Um, I'm going to do one on project management, so I'm going to be making a call on building that one out because I think that's an important topic. Let me go ahead. Oh, this is lovely. Thank you, everybody, for yeah, like Nicole for posting about Friday finds, and then Bobby. Yes, Christy Tucker's newsletter is amazing. Um, thanks, Bridget. Um, yes, excellent topics. Thanks, Nicole. See, I'm going to definitely go through the comments after this is over so that I can so that I can uh, I'm just going to collect the comments and read over them. Um, Excellent. All right. Oh, Kimberly, thank you. Yeah, I love it. Love it. Thank you, Kimberly. I will definitely contact you. Um, I'll be calling for speakers soon on that. All right. Okay, so let me talk about this one. During the summer, AirMeet sent a message, and many of you may know I have had a really really good deal on AirMeet. Like I started using AirMeet, I guess it was 2020. So that's like 4 years ago when they were still in beta. And I bought a lifetime license so that I could produce this stuff. And since then, I don't know if you recall, but after I started producing things in AirMeet, there were a handful of folks in our space that also started using AirMeet, but I don't think nobody really had the deal that I had on AirMeet. But it became kind of a central to the way that I feel like I was able to serve the community was by using AirMeet. Well, a few weeks ago, they sent a message out to all of the folks that had this lifetime license and said, sorry, we can't do this lifetime license anymore. Which, at first it's like, what? Are you kidding me? And that's a bummer. But I also know it's like, for instance, when we did the accessibility conference, just was that 2 months ago or so, yeah, and but that thing, I mean, we had over 1,200 people register for that, and so they're hosting the recordings, hosting all the traffic, and I realized that there are a lot of it's using a lot of resources, and so I can understand how the license that I had was kind of, I mean, it was a special case. I didn't realize AirMeet was going to turn into the platform that it eventually became. And I was really, really happy about that. Now, I haven't responded back to AirMeet about them changing that lifetime license. I still am just thinking about it and trying to figure out what I would want to say. But ultimately, they're just raising prices. And honestly, what they're saying is that if you want to continue, it has to be $4, I think, per registrant that that we need to pay if we're going to continue to have online events. And that's a bummer because it was a fraction of that before. And it was and I paid a big lump sum in the beginning too. So uh I'm not sure what I'm going to do with AirMeet. I still have, that AirMeet platform. I have everything that we've done for the last 4 years in AirMeet, and so moving forward, not quite sure. Um, and so I'm looking at Christine's question: do we charge to be a member of TLDC that can assist with costs to run the community? There are there are a bunch of things associated with this that are tough because once, like right now, the deal is members get access to all the recordings. That's kind of the value prop, and it helps me pay, like the costs for, I still pay probably too much for Crowdcast, which we're on right now, and other things that are kind of running in the back end of TLDC. I do have licensing for different things. TLDC does pay, for instance, from like my chat GPT account and some different stuff. But the model, if I continue to use AirMeet, the model of how I produce events and all of that has to change. And I still haven't come up with something that's successful. I want to be able to, when it comes down to it, if I do have to start charging, I need to be able to compensate speakers, which, when we're doing free events, it's more the generosity of the community that I'm kind of relying on. But if they're going to be paid events, then the speakers need to be compensated, and that gets to be really, really complicated. And honestly, for my own time, just because I have the day job, and I mean, it's crazy. I actually started doing a lot of volunteering within my own community here where I live, and so my time has gotten even more. Other people are taking. Well, I'm just doing a lot of different things, like there's a sports league that all of a sudden I'm doing digital stuff for, and then and some nonprofits that I'm doing some work for. So it's a little tough, but I have to rebuild the model for it. AirMeet may no longer be the option. I can tell you, and I think it's in the next slide, there is a platform that I'm looking at. It's called behuman.online, and there is some technical apparatus that needs to be set up for that one. If anybody has used that one, let me know. I would love to know whether or not that is a good one, because that one uses AWS as kind of the video production part of it, and that could potentially be very, very budget, or it's just cheaper to run, and so I'm actually looking into that. Let me take a look. Okay, Mike is saying look at Circle. Yeah, I have looked at Circle. I looked at Circle in the past, and I wasn't quite sure, like a long time ago. I didn't know Tim Slade used it, but Circle is good. There is another community that I was a part of that used Circle on a regular basis, but the part to me that I try to find platforms that the friction of being able to get in, like I want to be able to make sure that when people need to get into something, that it's not that difficult. And Circle is good. I mean, I could cancel Crowdcast and maybe go with something like Circle, but I'm still looking. Thank you for that comment though, Mike. Let me take a look here. Yes, thanks, Thomas, for mentioning that about with the Learning Network. I'm sure that you have those challenges as well. Thank you, Michelle. I am just taking a look here. Nicole's saying that Circle gets blocked by some organizations. All right, Jessica, what I can do is, once I have an idea of what I'm sort of coming up with, I will share it with the community to kind of look at like what the potential answer could be. And as you can see on this slide, the last thing that I mentioned is that I've really been kind of looking at, because Discord has defined itself as a community platform and it's huge. Like, everybody uses Discord. I was definitely late to the game with Discord. I'm sure that that many of you already use it. I got into it because our local comic book store uses it, and my son, wants to keep up to date on, releases with Magic the Gathering and also with one of the D&D leagues that he plays in. So, like Thomas, you probably are an expert in Discord, but I know that that Discord could also potentially broadcast, an event. but I don't know exactly how that works. But if anybody has any feedback on Discord, I would love to hear that. It I wouldn't I would definitely keep the Slack instance up, forever, but then there might be some activity in Discord that I'll start to create just to see how that feels. Um, yes, thanks, Bobby. I'm sort of the same. Yeah, get off my lawn. Get off my lawn. I feel yeah. Susan, it does feel very gamerish, but you'd be surprised. I guess also I like to create images in Mid Journey, and so I ended up using Discord that way too. Um, and it is one of those things. And I feel like innovating and evolving, it might be good for us to get a handle on Discord because I don't think Discord is going away at all. Um, yeah, it's I think it's here for the it's going to be around for a long time. All right. So platform stuff. Keep that in the back of your mind. I'll share more information about that. And I do have to say, AirMeet says November 1st. Terms are done. So I'm kind of like, I'm going to do this project management. Let's see, we have like a month and a half or so to build some events in AirMeet. So project management, if anyone has another one that we could throw in there before things change with AirMeet, I'd love to do that. Even another two. Hit me up. Think about it. Let's get the most out of AirMeet before it changes on November 1st. So keep that in mind. Now, this next one. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Michelle, about the old-fashioned forums. I totally agree. Um, yeah, Discord can be crazy, but anyway, better move on. Um, Current state of L&D. So this is, I actually kind of lose sleep over this sometimes, just trying to figure out what was going on. Now, when I worked directly in L&D, and especially when I was building, conferences, big conferences and stuff, um, it was a lot easier for me to get the pulse of what was going on because, just regularly in contact with, the best speakers in the biz and just seeing their proposals come through and understanding how all of that is working. But it's just, I have been lost over the last, I would say at least like year. What is going on with the current state of L&D? And I don't know, the slide is kind of just me just throwing some stuff out there. But then I started to think like, are me trying to think about L&D trends? I mean, does that really even matter anymore? Is that something that is just a distraction? And maybe I should be more focused on just specific basic things. So that's one of the reasons why the project management one is an important one for me, because I think that is just a really, really useful skill that I would love folks to be able to learn more about, especially in L&D. And then also, like, these trends that I've listed there, everybody talks about them. There's so much information out there about them already. Is that something even worth bringing into the community? Now, I love it when speakers come in and they talk about something that they're passionate about. And so a lot of times, some of these topics, like current trends, like the rise of AI and automation, things like that, there are folks that are actively working on it now and are excited about it and would love to talk about it within an event. And so I love producing things like that. But is it of real value to the community, and should we be focused more on, on things like, like a project management or just straight up, instructional design topics? Um, oh, look at this one from Tom. Interesting feedback I got this week. Vendors are obsessed with trends. Community should focus on helping me do my job. That's really good. Bridget, thank you. I can't tell you how relieved I am to see that. I feel like the industry is going through an existential crisis following the pandemic boom, inevitable bust, and influx of new talent. That basically sums it up for me. I feel like that existential crisis is something that has been tearing me, tearing at me. That is. Um, Excellent. Thanks, Bobby. It's about doing more and more and more with less, especially when it comes to people. And so, with the community, I'm trying to figure out ways that, especially given like what Bridget is saying, an existential crisis, how do we adapt and thrive? Because, um, having worked in other sort of media companies that support L&D and just basically the the topics and the subjects that we used to build were topics and subjects that would make us money. Now, TLDC is not a money making enterprise by design. It's just something to support people that are in this industry. And, it's just that a lot of it is just an experiment for me. It's less about trying to to generate revenue than it is more about generating impact, right? And I don't and but if even if you look at ATD and the guild and things like that, they're not going to they're not going to do events that focus on things that aren't going to make a bunch of money. But for me, I just want to create value, and I'm just seeing, and I enjoy it, and I'm just doing it, and so I want to continue doing that. But so this is like it's sort of given that, like, how can we get this community? How do we adapt and thrive? Like, without generating a ton of revenue. I just try to pay the bills, and I'm totally good with that. But if that's the case, then how do we continue to grow and just help one another succeed? So that's my challenge. And then also, I'd like to know how your organizations are adjusting to any of these changes, or if they even are. I feel like where I work, there are a lot of changes that are happening. We're integrating AI into almost everything. And a lot of it is just working, and it's really, really interesting to watch it. But we are a unique organization, and I don't think that everybody, can do what O'Reilly is doing. But I love watching it, and I'm learning a lot from it. But I don't know. I'd love to hear it from other folks too, like whether or not your organization is really, they even care about trends and things like that. Let me read about, let's see, Jessica saying trends sometimes feel surface, whereas what we do often requires a deeper understanding of context. Yes, I like that. Thank you. In higher ed, a lot of cuts and figuring out how to do things with less. And that's basically my life with TLDC. Bobby's saying hot take. It's not the talent, it's the environment. Employers are operating in a chaotic state, and employees are exhausted from being corporate minions. Whew. Let's see. Oops, I was reading Danielle's and things are flying by. I love these comments. Where did Danielle go? Oh, all right. I was trying to read that one, and now I don't see it. Okay. Well, all right. So next slide. I think this might be my last one. So ultimately, it comes down to TLDC evolving and coming up with innovative ways to help support this community. And I had some ideas, like, if I am able to, if we can find a platform that can do this, peer mentoring, coaching groups, building collaborative projects within the community, like some of this stuff that I'm doing, like I'm doing this, I'm volunteering my time to, he's actually my neighbor who is trying to, he's trying to build more bike trails within our community, bike and walking, pedestrian walking trails. And he has all of this great stuff that he's come up with. He's getting the support of people that live in these neighborhoods that have land and have these trails that we can use and things like that. But I really feel uh, there's so much value in collaborating with him and the other volunteers that are building this stuff. And I felt like, how do you transfer that to a digital community to find ways to help other people? And I think so that popped into my head. Um, Certifications or specialized training opportunities, partnering. I've never really done that. Uh, Trying to find other people that might, or other organizations that might have certifications, or other ways of being able to integrate TLDC members into things that they're do, so that you potentially get benefit. And then I was thinking about some sub communities. Actually, I put that online in the wrong place. My sub communities are, believe it or not, like basically for almost all the events, for like the transitioning educators events, and the women in learning and development events, AIDC. I have all these different domains that I've purchased, and I've been keeping, to be able to create sort of sub communities for TLDC, but I never do it because I just don't have the resources to do it. But would that be helpful if there was a sub community, for transitioning teachers, or a sub community for the women in learning and development? And what exactly would that mean? Would that be of value to you? So keep that in mind. If it is, send me a message. I know there's a lot here where I'm like, send me a message, but I'm just throwing that out there. Oh, thanks, Bridget. Yeah, it's just, I think I'm just one of those people that likes to be of service. My parents were sort of the same way. And, you know, I come from, I do have family that are kind of more sort of activists, and my wife and her family are sort of that mindset as well. So it's just kind of there. Um, there's so many great comments on here. Thank you, Michelle, for that comment. Oh, there you go. Let's see. I'm looking at Danielle, who had accidentally deleted the original comment. I was saying I feel the staying power is going to be balancing the roots, that is the fundamental L&D concepts, and the different trees, like current trends. I agree, Danielle, and that is something that is going to be a challenge for me. And I'm going to just need people's help. Thank you, Kathy. Sub-communities, all right, so maybe we'll do that. Darcy is going to mash the +1 button on the mentoring coaching idea. Yeah, and we tried doing some mentoring through TLDC at one point, and I did this whole thing. It took so much time because I was matching people. I swear, if I wanted to be, I've thought about this, about becoming a developer, and that would be my project, was to create a mentoring platform of some sort, building it with whatever, Python or something. But where's the time? But I do think that it's worth considering and figuring out if there are models out there that we might be able to implement. And we have some resources. Love it, Bridget. Oh, thank you, Bobby. I was actually, when I was talking about the certification or specialized training opportunities, you were like the person that I was thinking of. All right, so I got to wrap things up because I know we're running long, and I really appreciate everybody being here. So one of the things I'm going to do is wait, let me copy this link. This is a tool that I've used in the past to get feedback from the community. It's sort of a, what do you call that sort of interface? I guess it's similar to maybe where you can vote items up, like sort of like Reddit was, or Dig back in the old days. Check that out. There is some older content in there that is still of value that, like, I look at every once in a while and think, I should work on this. There's one that Nick had posted, Nick Floro had posted a while ago, that I'm like, I got to build that at some point. But if you can, please go to feedback.thetldc.com, Jessica, and fill and post anything, just any ideas, whatever. And everybody, like, if you see anything on there that you think is interesting, give it a uh, an arrow up, or if you're not so into it, the arrow down. Uh, I would appreciate it. And then I'm working on a survey that I'm going to send out to everybody. So hopefully that doesn't distract you too much from from your world when I send it out. But I'm building that, and in fact, I have it up on my screen. But I just really need to be. I need to just. I want to do it right, so I'm gonna. I couldn't build it in time for this event. Um, yeah, so I guess this is just the first sort of my. This little webinar or TLD cast is just me wanting to let you know that there are going to be some changes coming up, and I have to make some decisions about stuff. I'm going to be putting more time into things. And honestly, I also, there's some stuff that's coming up for me with these other volunteer things that I'm doing. It's a lot. So I am going to probably ask for some help here and there, but we'll just keep this stuff going. It wasn't a thing where Air Meat was going to, just totally throw a monkey into the rent. Well, how do you say that? I don't even know. Anyway, Air Meat changing is not going to, it's going to impact us, but that just means we get the opportunity to innovate. And that's how I've always looked at stuff with tech. And in a lot of ways, it excites me. So, yeah, that's it. Everybody, I hope you have a great weekend. Happy Friday to all of you. Thank you so much. If you haven't already registered for the event next week, I call it EWL 24, but it's um, let me post the link here, and so that everyone can get to it if you haven't registered. And I do have all members already in there, so if you aren't registered, you may have. If you're a member, you're probably already registered. But the evolution of workplace learning. I'll put this here. Thanks, Christine. Make sure you're registered. And Cindy, yes, thank you. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you all hopefully at some point next week. And with that, closing it out. Have a good weekend.